All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of Island Hopping, where we are exploring some of the most exciting vacation spots in the world to purchase real estate. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be starting in Barbados with Rachel McCartney from Terra Luxury. Super excited. Barbados is such an amazing place. And I'm going to hand it over to Rachel just to tell us a little bit about her.
Okay, great. So I'm Rachel, as you just said, and I have been living in Barbados for the last 21 years. Time flies when you live here because, I mean, if you could see outside, it makes it a lot easier. I have been in real estate with this company now, Terra Luxury and Knight Frank, which Terra Caribbean being the group that I work for. And it's been 14 years. I now manage the sales team of 19 agents, soon to be 20 next week. And it's a lot of fun living here and working.
Amazing. So, what's your experience? What's it look like for you throughout the year selling, buying and selling in Barbados?
So Barbados originally was pretty seasonal based. So you would have winter season when all the transactions used to happen, and then summer was when things were quiet. But I would say probably since, I'm going to say 2018, 2019, things started to shift with that, where we no longer were seasonal. You'd have people that come and look in the winter months, but when things changed into summer, the serious people would come back, and that's when they would kind of make their decisions. So it's pretty much year round. We have a couple of times a year that we can take a little bit of time off, but as you know, in real estate, there's no such thing. Yeah. Most things happen when you're on vacation. So our team likes to go on vacation and do deals. But yeah, it's pretty busy year round.
Okay. And what can you tell me about life in Barbados, not just in real estate, but living in Barbados, life in Barbados?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very relaxed place to live. I think that there's such lovely people here. Everybody's so welcoming to everyone. I mean, it's a tourism-based country, so everybody knows that this is how things are, and they really love all the people that come onto the island. It's a lot of fun. There's something to do every weekend. So you'd think that living on an island, it could get a little bit boring, but I can guarantee you that sometimes you're like, every single week, you're like, there's too much to do. I need to slow down. Living with islanders come with some challenges. Sometimes you feel like you may want to get a little bit of island fever. So you may want to hop off. But the nice thing about Barbados is there's direct flights to most places in the world. So, and great airlift. So anytime you want to get off, which is usually what they say is like every 3 months, you may want to just dip out for a couple of days and check yourself and then come back. So it's pretty easy to do that here.
Amazing. And why do you think people are choosing Barbados as a destination for investing or purchasing?
So one, it's a pretty stable economy compared to most. We have a fantastic Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, and she has done amazing things for the island throughout COVID and beyond. So it's economy, it's accessibility. You can get here from Canada in summer, you can get it from Montreal, and you can get here from the UK as well too, fairly easy. It's a pretty straightforward flight. Okay. So there's that. There's also a good level of security and safety here compared to other islands. It's, I live in a community that is gated, but doesn't have security, and I can leave my doors open until 11 o'clock at night, and just you're relaxed completely about it, which is quite a nice way to live.
I know anytime we've been there, we've felt extremely safe.
Yes.
Definitely an island where there's no reservations with renting a car and just, discovering things for yourself.
Yeah, and then the nice thing too, I mean, which is the quite obvious stuff is, the beaches are just phenomenal here. You have the West Coast, which is nice and flat. South Coast has a little bit of wave, and then on the East Coast of the island, it's just a completely different rugged terrain and beautiful in its own sense. And then obviously the restaurants here, which quite fantastic too. So we have a great quality of food and dining experiences here.
And where do you find the majority of buyers are coming from? Where in the world are they coming from?
So we are predominantly UK, would be British purchasers, followed by Canadians. Those would be our two main source markets. And then we have now sort of coming in is the US market, but it's not a very big one. It's more so from sort of the New York and the eastern border. And then we have regional owners, like people from Trinidad or other islands that would buy here as well too.
Okay.
But it's predominantly UK and Canadian.
Canadians, perfect. So what's the current, tell me a little bit about, just in a general statement, I guess, a little bit about the market right now there and kind of how you see things evolving over the next little while. You were an island that was impacted obviously with tourism through COVID, and you come out of that very strong. So tell people watching right now, what's the market right now like, and what do you see happening over the next little while?
Sure. Okay. So I'll start with 2019, and I'll be very brief. I'm not going to run you through the next, 4 years of our lives. But in 2019 is when we started to see things drastically improve in Barbados. And we were, as our company was set to have the best year ever at that point in time, which we did. Cue COVID, things dipped quite a bit. And predominantly because airlift, while Barbados remained open, Canada, you could not come here from Canada, and flights were basically non-existent from everywhere else in the world. So if you don't have the foreign market coming in, it obviously foreign sales are limited. We did have a lot of people shift to buying properties online, which we've never really seen before.
So it's totally sight unseen, virtual tours, and
correct, virtual tours. And luckily before COVID, we'd started to document all of our properties by video. Not because we knew that was coming, but we're like, let's stay one step ahead. So a lot of the properties, even though we couldn't even leave our houses, we had them documented. So we had quite a few sales during COVID, some great success stories with people that came to stay in a hotel and said the hotels were closing, and they're like, well, we're not going back there. We're just going to ride it out here. I'll stay in a villa. And people that have been to Barbados for the first time started to buy property, and they're like, if I like it as it is today, I'm going to love it when it's open.
Sure.
So I'm talking about investments north of $6 million, not something you would just spend lightly on.
Sure.
So we've had great success stories through COVID. As soon as the island opened up, we had a big rush of sales, a bubble, as everybody else saw around the world. Got a little bit quiet because we had another lockdown, and then it boomed again. Every year so far, we've seen increases in our sales. Our pipe every year has increased between 20 to 35%. Of what things we've added to our pipe every single year. Our revenue has grown throughout it. We had, I think, 1 year, maybe in 2020, where it took us a light dip, but nothing major. But yeah, it's been fantastic. Now, looking forward, we have our lead volume is up. So I think our lead volume is up somewhere around 20% of new inquiries. A lot of people coming onto the island. With airlift opening and more flights coming back in, we're definitely seeing a lot more arrivals. So our holiday rental market is booming, especially not necessarily the hotels may not be as strong, but the villa rentals are very, very strong, because there was a big shift from people wanting to stay in a hotel, staying into a villa, a luxury villa that's serviced, has chef, everything that you could possibly want.
Well, and actually seeing the island versus being in a resort and being isolated, experiencing the culture and the island, right? Yes,
exactly. So that aspect of it has been good. We're definitely up already from last year, and we predict our financial year sort of ends around end of June, and we're definitely going to be up on the year before, and then going forward, our pipe is stacked even more strong. So it's definitely a sign that the market's strengthening here, and we're pretty happy about that.
That's great. So primarily, let's just talk quickly about the areas, because there's distinct areas to consider with different price points and different advantages. So maybe discuss, West Coast, South Coast, East Coast, and kind of give us a brief summary of why somebody might want to look at one of those areas.
Sure. Okay. So if we start on the south coast of the island, I lived there for 13 years when I moved here. South Coast is very lively. There's a lot happening. It's a bit more budget friendly. So you do get the younger tourists coming in to stay there. A lot of Canadians own on the south as well, too, as they do on the west. There is a lot happening, good nightlife, good restaurants, a bit more affordable than the West. The sea, as I mentioned, has a little bit of waves. So you might find people that are kite surfers, wind surfers, people learning to surf. They might have that, they may be down on that side of the island. But you can get, I mean, on a price per square foot for beachfront properties, you're probably looking somewhere in the range of about between 400 and 700, depending on the level of the property.
Okay.
So it's still, you can get, you know, and apartments probably, you're looking at between 1,000 to maybe 2,400 square feet on the South Coast for apartments.
Okay.
And then there's some beachfront homes, but they're kind of few and far between because they don't come up that often. And when they do, they just get snapped up immediately. The West is what we call, I remember coming here and working in with a night show. They used to have like a big tourist night show with fire eaters and limbo dancers. And I remember the people explaining it, and they would say that Barbados, West Coast is called the Platinum Coast or the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
So it's total luxury on this side, beautiful properties, lush sceneries, the really high-end restaurants, but a mixture of both. Good high-end shopping if that's what you want. Really nice flat water. It's and there's quite a bit to do on this side as well too. It's a bit of a different scene. There's not a lot of traffic on the road on the West Coast, whereas the South Coast you might get a little bit of traffic. Island traffic, that is. Every time I tell people about traffic, they tell me to be quiet.
That's not Canadian traffic, right?
No. So yeah, it's West Coast is a bit different. On from sales perspective, you're looking at condos, they can probably be anywhere from say 500 to 1,000 US per square foot. And then obviously the sizes on the West Coast get substantially bigger. So you may get entry level units that are probably somewhere on the 1,200 square foot spot for a 2-bedroom, but then you can get up to, you know, 6,000 square feet, like the apartment that we're in right now that I can take you around to see after.
So and that is, I mean, and the appeal there too is obviously is just the water. I mean, it's just flat and like glass. It's just stunning for anyone that hasn't seen it.
Exactly. And if the people that are surfers as well, during the winter season, probably about 2 times a year, my partner can't wait for it, but you do get a bit of a north swell. So you get some amazing surf breaks off of the West Coast too. So that doesn't happen often. So
amazing.
Nice and flat, great for boating. You'll see catamarans go by constantly on this coast. It's beautiful and nice and serene. And
the
then,
East Coast. Yeah, East Coast.
The East Coast. So the East Coast has one of the best surf breaks in the world, which is Bashaba. There's a big surf competition happening up there, international surf competition happening there right now. It is rough and rugged. It's the Atlantic Ocean. It is the most beautiful change of scenery you can have, because when you look at it like this and then you look over there, it's just chalk and cheese, but it's a good chalk and cheese. So there are only about 2 hotels on the East Coast. One is Eco Lifestyle and Lodge, which is a beautiful sort of rustic chic hotel that has a restaurant that serves the most amazing food. It's vegetarian and pescatarian, and the chef there is just insane, so good. And they do really good brunches, and you can tell I like food, right?
Yeah, there's no shortage on the island of amazing food.
No. And then there's the Atlantis, which is a little bit just further down the road and has 11 rooms, beautiful hotel, but a different kind of, a bit more of a colonial or traditional style of hotel. But so there's something for everyone out that side. And then there are really nice villas that have started to go up along the East Coast. East Coast traditionally, mostly owned by Barbadian families. And then people used to come there and stay during the, summer breaks, winter breaks, Easter breaks. And then the West Coast market started to say, wow, this looks great. So a couple of people of really well-known high net worth individuals have purchased properties along the East Coast and done fantastic things with their homes as well.
So it's safe to say then that most from a vacation type property for people coming to the island, that the majority are seeking kind of South and West Coast.
South and West Coast, and then people that have interest in surf, East Coast. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Amazing information. Now you're somewhere exciting. So let's talk a little bit about that, because we can't do this interview today and find out about Barbados without being in an amazing spot. So I'll
Without
let you
knowing.
talk a little bit about where you are and maybe take us on a tour before we jump back into some of the other questions.
Sure. Okay. So right now, I'm at St. Peter's Bay, and I'll take you for a tour so you can take a little peek around. But it's a development with 57 units. It was built roughly 2008, 2009 is when people started to move in. The apartments are 3 bedrooms, and I'm in a 5-bedroom penthouse right now. They are 2,700 square feet to roughly 6,000 square feet, give or take. All on one level,
Wow.
all facing the views, and the beach in front of here is just so special as well too. They've done beach work to protect the beach so that there's sort of groin work out there, so you have a bit more sand in front. It's nice and calm. The units, they've gone into a change of management, and it's a really great brand that has taken over this group, and they are, while the brand is not present in terms of the brand being for St. Peter's Bay, the operations are. So it is a seamless operation, very different in customer service and style. There is a really good restaurant downstairs. I can vouch for it. Again, with my food.
Yeah.
There's security, there's a gym, there's a yoga room, there's concierge on site. So it has all the amenities that you need. There's water sports. There's a water taxi that can take you into Speightstown or into Whole Town. You know,
Wow.
can do short trips around here as well too. So you get to experience it from the water. So there's quite a lot going on here. And also they during turtle nesting times, you can see turtles hatching on the beach, which is quite nice too.
Wow, amazing.
So I'm going to take you for a tour through this unit. You're going to have to tell me if I'm doing this fine, because I'm using my laptop, and you know, we'll see how things go.
Sounds great.
So first things first, I'll start with out here, because that's what everyone's interested in.
Wow.
This would
So
be
it's
the
a pretty
wrong time to
significant
go.
property as far as size goes. Yeah. Wow.
Yes, it is. And you can see the beach down there as well too, right?
Yeah, absolutely stunning. Wow. Beautiful.
So this is the penthouse, but all of the units have access to the beach from an elevator that's at the front.
Okay.
So while you have an elevator to access the apartment, there's an elevator that would take you straight down to the pool and beach area.
Right from your own apartment. Wow. Okay.
Right from your own apartment for all of the units. Yeah.
Okay.
The nice thing about this unit, I mean, the patio here is so expansive, and it's an end unit as well too. This is unit 511.
Okay.
You can see all the nice mature mahogany trees here, and then obviously the beach down there.
Wow. Beautiful.
Yeah. This is the main bedroom here. And the thing with these units is that because the unit development was done in 2008, they've took some of these units and upgraded the interior. So they've done things like bathrooms, and they've done this is a nice walk-in closet here that leads you into the bathroom. Another bedroom just off of it. And again.
And these are just open air right outside. Wow.
They open straight out. Well, they have pocket doors, which are quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
Right here.
Okay.
All the rooms are air conditioned. The whole apartment's air conditioned, which I know that Canadians tend to love.
Yeah.
So you have, this is the second guest bathroom. Shower as well.
Yeah. Beautiful finishes, tile work.
Yes. And some really nice coral rendering throughout. Beautiful wall piece there as well. It's driftwood. And it's the layout of this, and also all of the other apartments.
Okay.
Is all the bedrooms are sort of down separate areas, so they don't feel like you're on top of anybody.
Okay.
Another bedroom down here.
Nice and bright. Wow. Fantastic.
Really nice and bright, yeah.
So what's the square footage again of this particular unit? Because this is pretty significant.
It's roughly 6,000 square feet.
Wow. Okay. And so in that development, what was the square footage range again of some of the units?
2,700 to about 6,000.
Okay. Okay. Wow, beautiful.
I'm gonna try. And then you have, it has a separate kitchen.
Mhm.
This one, so you could, if you're entertaining, close off the doors here, so
Okay.
no one sees anybody in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Some of the other units, what they've done is open them up completely and
Okay.
change all the countertops to really nice white quartz. I don't know if you can gauge the height of the ceiling in here, but it's pretty substantial.
Yeah. Amazing.
And then there's
Two
one more.
distinct indoor and outdoor living sitting areas, right? It's beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah. I guess what I'll do is I'll send you a video after,
Yes.
because basically there's a top floor level that has a pool, outdoor kitchen, gazebo. It's beautiful. And then the views are even more insane than down here.
Unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties, we lost her momentarily during the tour of the beautiful condo at St. Peter's Bay. So we are now attaching some footage. So please have a look and enjoy this beautiful property. Thank you.
Sure.
Wow, that's beautiful. So 2,700 square feet would kind of be the starting square footage in this development.
Yes. And they have some pricing because with the new management, what they've tried to do is try and encourage some more sales right now. So starting prices are about 1.65
Okay.
and up to 5.5. But the 5.5 being the penthouse, 1.65, 1.95 range US, and you're good to go. And from a value perspective, it's quite attractive.
Wow, beautiful. So, okay, so tell us a little bit about the buying process in Barbados.
Sure.
What does that look like? I'm a buyer, I've come down, or I want to entertain. What does the kind of process look like for us?
Okay, so it's very different to you, to where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, in terms of speed. So basically, if you come down here and you decide on a property, you enter into, you would make an offer, which is in writing, subject to formal contract. Once the owner may go back and forth with you on price. Nobody really accepts the first price unless it's a good one. And once it's agreed, you sign a final offer form, offer document, and it's sent over to an attorney. So you as a purchaser need to have an attorney act on your behalf in a transaction, just because they're legal searches with title and that kind of stuff that is not straightforward for anybody here to do. So attorneys are heavily involved in the sales process. And attorney fees for something at this level may be roughly 1%, between 1% and 1.5%.
Okay.
But the attorney fees range between 1% to 2.5%, and that's sort of a scale of fees. It depends on the price you're purchasing for. The attorneys then exchange purchase and sale agreements. Once they've come to an agreement on that, you then issue your 10% deposit. That process can take anywhere from a week to 3 weeks, depending on the speed of the attorneys. If you have financing involved, because if you have financing involved, you need to have two attorneys, your attorney and the bank's attorney, which are both at your cost. And you can work a better price with the attorneys if you have both working from the same firm for the bank and yourself. So once the attorneys, and you've paid your 10% deposit, they've done their searches, the conveyancing documents prepared, and then you close after that and pay your balance. It is somewhere, I would say, I'm in a transaction right now with some Canadians, clients of mine, fantastic clients, and they were adamant that they wanted to close within a month.
Okay.
And everybody was like, that's insane. It's never going to happen. but it is, and it's hopefully closing tomorrow, knock on wood. So it is possible to get things done quickly. You just need to, like anything in life and anything with people might say living on an island, surround yourself with people that know how to get things done, that are efficient, and that you can trust. So once you surround yourself with the right group of people in each industry, you can get things done in a reasonable time frame. But however, I would say the average experience could be for a transaction, a cash transaction, 2 to 3 months to close. Financing, 3 months. If something goes really wrong, it could take up to 6 months.
Okay.
So it just depends on everything. But having a good agent that is on top of it and keeps on top of the process and is calling everybody to make everything happen, because you got to juggle everything, as you know.
Yeah.
That's very important too.
So I think some of the big differences for us, for Canadians, and for potentially some American buyers, is that the deposit, number one, there is a somewhat of a fixed percentage, right? That's 10% that you mentioned.
Yes.
And that's somewhat fixed. The other one, really, to understand, I guess, the lag time in some of the possible closings is really because there is no central registry like a lot of us have in North America.
Right.
Right. So your properties are not all registered digitally where they can just log into the system and transfer title. This has to be physically done.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
And it is a painful process sometimes, depending on, because you have so many people to rely on. It's not only just the title search. It could be that you need to wait for the land tax bill to be cleared as well too, and to get the certificate. So it's a rolling process with a lot of people involved. But that's why it's important to rely on people that you know and you trust to advise on who's the right attorney to use in a transaction.
Absolutely.
And who's the right agent to be involved with to get things done in a timely fashion too.
Rachel.
Thank you.
So are there any restrictions on foreign ownership in Barbados that you're aware of?
No, there none. So basically it's very attractive to buy here. Purchasing cost, as I mentioned, was just the legal fees, and you pay a proportionate amount of land tax that's left at that point in time at closing. So it's very straightforward to buy. Mm-hmm. When you buy here, and you're bringing funds in, if you're buying the real estate and not necessarily a holding company, yeah. Your attorney registers the funds with the central bank so that when you want to sell, the funds can be repatriated. There is a restriction in terms of the amount of time you can stay on the island. Generally, it's a 6-month rule. Mm-hmm. So you can stay here for 6 months of the year. Anybody can come here and stay for 6 months of the year. You can apply to extend. You might own a property, you may want to extend, but there are different ways of having a better foothold here. So you may want, for tax purposes, to become a resident because Barbados has favorable tax percentages. Mm-hmm. So if you did that, you can do it a couple different ways. You can do the special entry permit. So if you buy a property that's $2 million US or over, you can, once your purchase is complete, mm-hmm. you can apply to be a resident of Barbados. Okay. So it's pretty great.
That's, and you can threshold from a price standpoint?
Yeah, it's $2 million. Yeah.
Okay.
There's another one with retirees, but I think that's more to do with the CARICOM, which wouldn't really affect you. Then you can do one where it's I think it's owning over $5 million in assets, so there's that as well.
That's in Barbados?
No, outside of Barbados. So it's kind of like a high net worth owner. You can rent a property for 2 years. I'm not a tax expert, but I know really good ones I can put you all on to. And then there's the welcome stamp, which was
so yeah, talk to us a little bit about that, because that was something that was very smart, I think, that Barbados did.
Yeah, so when things got quiet, Barbados introduced the welcome stamp, where you can apply to live and work here for a year with not having to pay tax in Barbados. So you're taxed as usual, like you're everywhere else in the world. The fee to do it is very reasonable. Like, say it's $2,000 US for the year. You can bring your family in, you can bring your partner in, and you can live here. It did amazing things for us, because when our economy was down from a tourism perspective, all the villas that would have been empty were now taken up by long-term rentals. We did a survey on terra.com, you can find it, but we did a survey for people, all the people that arrived into Barbados on the welcome stamp, and 76% of people had never been to Barbados before,
Wow.
which is quite amazing, right? So, from places that wouldn't usually visit here either. So, and then coming out of that, a lot of people have renewed, one, and two, invested in property rather than renting. They're like, no, I want a place to come here all the time. Because as you know, the first time you come to Barbados, and it's probably happened to you, you leave and you're immediately thinking, when am I coming back? It's not a place you come to once. It kind of grabs hold of you and it becomes like, this is my home away from home.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was brilliant. I mean, the welcome stamp, I think was brilliant, definitely, for giving you that edge up over just about every other island. And you had different restrictions during COVID, I think, that also made it more appealing as well.
It maybe did for sure, yeah.
The travelers knew that Barbados was taking it seriously during COVID, right? So
yes.
Okay, so how do you, I mean, I would imagine a lot of this is done remotely. So how do you communicate? How do you communicate all of this with clients remotely that are looking to buy that aren't necessarily there? And you did it obviously during COVID, but how do you communicate with them now to be able to facilitate something like that?
So me personally is what you're asking, right? Yeah. So one, I wake up at a very different time to everybody else in the world. Well, no, in Barbados. So a lot of my clients are British and Canadian, so I tend to wake up very early. Barbados, communication wise, from client to us, we did a lot of stuff during COVID when things were in lockdown. A lot of face-to-face on Zoom. I just call clients and talk nonsense and just have a good time and build relationships that way. And so that's just from a general communication perspective. From how do we reach people? It's we are affiliated with Knight Frank in the UK, and they are also affiliated with Douglas Elliman in the US, which I guess you would know from $1 Million Listing. I think everybody knows Douglas Elliman from that. Yeah. And then obviously we have great relationships with brokers in Canada, like yourself. So we don't have a strong foothold there, but we definitely have a lot of contacts in Canada. So it's more, and obviously from a digital reach as well, just heavily investing in that to try and get in front of the right people.
I think COVID must have been a good experience to put you all in a position to really fine tune that process for dealing with clients remotely, because it was just kind of put on fast forward ultimately, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, communication is key. There's a lot that gets lost in emails. If my clients want anything, they know that they can reach us, most times of the day, except maybe between, 10 and 5 or 4. So yeah, it's, but okay. A lot of, I guess for our team, it's kind of heavy on prospecting, client relationships, and just really building relationships with people.
Okay. Yeah. And how are most foreign buyers coming in there financing?
So interesting question. So there's a couple of different ways of doing it. There are only a few banks here that offer what we call US dollar financing. So that would be RBC, CIBC, and then there are a couple of other financial institutions that may offer it. But the difference between that and local financing is that the down payment's a bit heavier. So if you're going to get US dollar financing, usually you're looking to pay between 30 and 40% down. The term is shorter. So it's usually a 15-year term that you can get. And the rate is tied to everywhere else in the world. So instead of Barbados's rate, which is exceedingly low, I think right now it's somewhere around 7%, which might be similar to what you guys are experiencing there. Yeah. So it's not, from a financing perspective, it's not really the best time to do it, but they are, like RBC, for example, is coming up with some really creative ways of lending. They figured out a way of lending foreigners in local currency as well, where the terms are better, the rates are a lot better. I think it's somewhere around, it might be advertised at 4, but you might be able to get it at a better rate. Okay. So that definitely everybody's starting to think outside of the box for financing to see how we can get more deals done, because no one is really thrilled if they're buying a $5 million property to be paying 7% interest, luckily, a lot of the purchasers that buy in Barbados for us are cash purchasers. How they deal with it after, they deal with it, but it's most of the time it's cash purchasers here.
So it's safe to say that a lot of them are obtaining financing outside of Barbados, and then
They might in their own creative way, yeah.
And so can you tell us a little bit just about the dollar there and how that works? Because I know that for some people looking online, there is no centralized system for purchasing properties in Barbados. You don't have a general MLS system or a Realtor, Barbados.com. That really doesn't exist. And so it may be confusing to find properties for one, for some buyers, and then two, how they're advertised. Are they in Barbados dollars? Are they in US dollars? So maybe just tell us how that, how those two currencies are related. Yeah.
It is a frustrating process for a lot of people, because a lot of agencies here tend to treat their websites like shop windows. So they may have a lot of stuff that's on there that's not necessarily available, may have been sold 3 years ago. And it's just their way of, somebody is looking for a property, they see this, they contact them, then they can convert them to something different. We don't believe in that in any way whatsoever. We're very, very transparent. So what's on our system is available. Now things move way faster. So it might be available today and then tomorrow it's gone, and it may come down the next, come down that afternoon. But our system is updated instantaneously. So if something is sold, it's gone, it comes off the website. There are a lot of sort of third-party websites here that people use. It might be Carablist or Barbados Property Search, but again, there's duplications of properties on those websites. So from a purchaser's perspective, a potential purchaser's perspective, it is frustrating when you go onto these things and you spend 3 hours and you come up with this great list and only one's available. So the most important thing on a small island is you have to find the right agent to work with you that is going to be straightforward and that's going to be able to canvass the entire market. So while we don't have an MLS system here, we have what we call an informal MLS system. We co-broke properties throughout agencies. The professional agents will co-broke properties. And so what's on my website may not all be my listings, but it will be other agencies' listings as well.
Well, can you explain that for a second? Because that's one of the significant differences in your market versus North American markets. The co-broking and just what that means, I guess.
Yeah. So basically, there's on the island, as I mentioned, there's like this informal MLS. So I would send, if I get a listing that's exclusive, I'm going to co-broke it with all of the leading agents on the island, and we just do a share of the fee if they bring a client to us. But on our website, we have our listings and other people's listings as well. So it's not, I can go to anybody else for their listing. So if you're working with me and I say, Jason, I'm going to reach out to all the other agents, save you all the time and hassle of doing this. I'll canvass the market. I'll present the properties to you. You tell me what you want to see. I'll maximize on your time while you're here, take you to see everything in 1 or 2 days with one person. So you don't think, where was that bathroom? Or was that kitchen? You can use my brain. And so we tend to do things that way. All agents here will work with each other. I mean, it's an island, it's small. You may get along with 90% of the agents on the island, or at least one person in each firm is going to be a friend of yours, right? So it's a very easy way of doing things that way, rather than having to go out and work with, 10 different agents. And then you spend your entire holiday just looking at property.
Absolutely.
Want to do,
Interesting process. Well, okay. So tell us a little bit about, I guess, so if we found a property, what would be some of the typical expenses associated with owning those properties?
Sure. So the main one would be, if it's a condominium, you have condo fees, and that can range on a price per square foot basis, all around the island. It really just depends how many units, what the amenities are, what's the insurance, how many pools do they have? How close is it to the beach? So those things do vary a bit. So you have that, you have your land tax, obviously, which ranges depending on the value of the property. You have, even though you pay common fees, and I'm not 100% sure how it is in Canada, but you do have to pay for your individual units utilities. So the electricity, most condos have water included, some don't. Then you'll have the telephone, internet, and cable TV, which is all one package. And if you have a home, a standalone home, you have things like gardening expenses, pool expenses. And then with a standalone home, you'd have insurance to pay as well too. As compared to condominiums, usually there's building insurance included.
Okay.
So that's
And
summarizes it, yeah.
and so what what options or services, because I know you have a sister company that I want you to just talk a little bit about, but
Sure.
for somebody looking that, looks at this and says, well, there's going to be all these different things for me to manage owning a property. Tell us a little bit about your sister company and what they do to just as far as making an owner's life that much easier from being
Sure.
remote.
Happy to. So we have a company called Blue Sky Luxury, which is really well known in the holiday rental industry by holiday renters and also from tour operators globally, especially in the luxury segment of it. Blue Sky offers holiday rentals for your property, or if you want to rent a property as well, but they also manage all of quite a large number of luxury holiday rental properties all around the coast, all around the island. So it's not only luxury, I tend to stick to that because that's what I deal in, but we service apartments on the South Coast straight up to the West. So it's a hassle-free situation. You have a property manager that's in communication with you, that sends you updates on your property. The property manager goes in, they handle all your staffing services. So you may have your own staff for the property, or you may use our temporary staff services. So you don't necessarily have someone on your employee. You're not an employer. You can use our staffing services as well. They pay all your bills for you. They can be as hands-on or as hands-off as you want. Really just depends, but it's just such a great hassle-free situation to have that. And it's a good brand as well too. So it's, you can close your eyes and know that your home is being taken care of.
I think that's, one of the biggest hurdles for people looking at purchasing vacation properties is the concern of that. And so the fact that you have that answered, I think is a huge bonus and a relief for buyers, knowing that as much or as little as they want handled owning that property, it can be facilitated. So what's roughly the range of like a percentage or cost for having somebody take care of all of that for you?
So it depends. Like a property management fee can be anywhere from, say, depending on, if I was just going to stick to properties that are, north of $450 US, it might be something like $350 a month, roughly. And it can go all the way up, depending on the level or the size of your property. Because in Barbados, your property values here can be up to like 50 or 60 million US. So it really just depends on the size of the property. But it's a fair price for the service that you get. And for the, you can close your eyes and know that things are okay. From a commission basis, when you're renting your property, there's a charge for that, and then there's a charge for your property management,
Sure.
which is separately. So from a commission basis, I would say that most people pay on average about maybe 20-25% commission, depending on the property and who's the person driving the bookings for it. So Blue Sky Luxury tends to do quite a bit with their own direct marketing and their own direct leads. They're heavily focused on that, obviously, to help our owners pay out less. And so the fee would be somewhere around 20% for that. If you refer a booking for your own property, it might be 10 just to handle the whole situation. Because when the person's on island, our concierge team handles things for them before they're here, while they're here, and after they leave. So there's that. So it's anywhere between 10 to 20%. If a tour operator is involved, or an international tour operator, that's when it can creep up there into the 30%.
And so do you have, that's an all-encompassing option. You must have some owners who, for whatever reason, whether it's a cost or whether it's just because they want to feel like they're in control, that will handle their own bookings and use sites like VRBO and Airbnb and that type of thing.
So yeah, yes and no. So for Blue Sky, it's a bit different to other companies, whereas they want to make sure they can, I guess, to hone in on the client's experience while on island. So they would prefer that they're involved in every aspect of it, so that You don't want bad reviews on your home because you booked through VRBO. They came and stayed at the house because you did that. They didn't have concierge. Something went wrong, so they tend to only manage rent properties that they manage.
Okay.
There are people that do things differently where, yes, you have clients that want to have their own websites and they might work out a different rate for any of the, the rentals that they bring in directly. Or there are also other property managers on island that might be, the one-man show that comes in and does everything for you. And you might be the person that says, I really want to just rent my property myself. Something you like to do, you might do it everywhere else. So you can have your own property manager. And they're great people on this island that can manage your property for you as well.
Well, I would imagine being a vacation destination for ownership that there are options to meet kind of everyone's needs, just depending on what they're looking for.
Of course. Yes, of course. So yeah, I think there's also one aspect which we didn't speak about. And I would say it's probably happened within the last 10 years or so where they've introduced this thing. It's called the hotel condo concept here, which I think you and I have spoken about before. There are a couple of people that do it and do it really well. So there's the Mullins Group, the Grove Group, that does Mullins Grove, Palm Grove, Garden Grove. There is Beachview, which is run by a fantastic operator, and he's completely sold out for his development, but that does very, very well too. And how it works is basically you can buy at a more favorable price because when they do the hotel condo concept, the government allows for a TDA concession, which gives you tax benefits or tax-free benefits on building costs, VAT-free, duty-free, that kind of stuff. So when they do that, they're able to pass on the savings to the purchaser. So you get a better price. However, what we're promising the government is that I'm going to put this property into the hotel pool. So I'm putting it back into the hotel pool. So you as an owner, while you own it, you use it for 12 weeks of the year. Now, 3 months is a lot for some people, and you usually say it's the first 5 years, you have to rent it out. You can use it 12 weeks. And other than that, it goes into the hotel pool and they rent it out for you. There's also the Sands. I forgot that one as well too. And Ocean too on the South Coast. So there's a few people that have picked up on it. It is a kind of extreme hassle-free situation where, you're buying it, you're like, okay, great, I'm going to come and use it. And then you just deal with it. And because they're renting it out, they take sort of, I don't want to say ownership, but if there's something that needs to be touched up, they touch it up. If something happens and it needs to be replaced, there's a budget for that as well too. So it's a very easy way to do it. And the price points for that can range, on the South Coast, they might start at say 300,000. And on the West Coast, it may go maybe as high as, for these types of units, maybe like $700,000-800,000. So very affordable and an easy way of doing things.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a great option for people that aren't looking specifically to be there for longer than 3 months, which you mentioned. That's a long time to actually be there. Yeah. And I think it's an interesting option because it gives people the ability to get into a style and a type of product that they likely would not be able to afford in 100% ownership, right?
Yes.
So developments right now, you mentioned a few. So what would be some of the developments on the island right now that people looking should consider? I know you've got a lot, so it's kind of a general question, but
I'd start here where we are, St. Peter's Bay. For me, to be able to get a 3-bedroom beachfront at 2,700 square feet at 1.65 million it's not really heard of. And there's not a lot of new beachfront properties and apartments coming up on the market. So because they're upgrading the units as well too, it's kind of like the right time to buy here and the right price to buy. There is Mullins Grove 2, which is the one I mentioned. If you were looking for a hotel condo concept option, there, I think there are only 3 units left. There's Coral Beach, which as well too. Coral Beach is fantastic development that is just, I want to say I can walk to it from here. It's the same beach, just a bit further up. So it's across the road from the beach, but it has its own walkway to the beach. They're, roughly they're under 1,200 square feet units, really nicely finished. And the price point is just fantastic. So you can get a really nice apartment for say 425,000 US, and it is brand new, which is great. And it has a rooftop terrace. So that's a great entry level. And then there are other apartments along the coast. So it depends if you want like a good bang for your buck. There's Waterside, which is on Paynes Bay. And those are smaller units in size, sort of, you know, the 900 to 1600 square feet, but very, very well priced. And so you can get a 2-bedroom under $1 million US, which again, there's nothing quite like that here.
Okay.
If you're into boating, there is the Port St. Charles Marina. So every unit that you buy there comes with a berth. So you can have your boat there, or you can rent the berth out if you are not into boating, but it has a really nice beachfront on the entrance too. And then later on this year, hopefully Port Ferdinand, which is another marina, is going to be reopening for sales as well, which is part of this group. And that's a great opportunity too.
So lots of options.
Stacks. And if you're into golf, I mean, if you're into golf, there's Apes Hill, which is the people have known it for a long time, but it's taken over by new management, and the golf course is fantastic. The lifestyle up there is quite unlike anything else. It's Canadian owned, and there's a lot of Canadians that have purchased up there recently. But it's, you know, there's 12.5-kilometer hiking trails, there's 2 golf courses, spa, gym,
Wow.
restaurants, bars. Yeah, it's beautiful. And then there's Royal Westmoreland as well too, and then Sandy Lane, which everybody knows.
So is it safe to say then that most of the sales for international buyers coming in would be beach or just off beach?
Yeah, I would say predominantly they're asking for us, they'll ask for beach, or they'll ask for off beach with sea view, or they'll ask for off beach and walking distance to the beach. And generally, if you're going to be renting out your property, if you were a renter, that's kind of what you're looking for in that order, you know?
That's my next question. Yeah, is that if I'm looking to buy and I want to enjoy something, but I'm also an investor looking at it that way, what's being rented the most, I guess, because I know you track those statistics.
Yeah, so predominantly beachfront. Obviously, everybody says beachfront is probably the most sound investment. You don't see the values slipping too much on the beach, usually increasing. And then off beach with a view. A lot of people love the amenitized communities as well that are off beach. You know, they can have, and we have some really good ones here like Apes Hill and Royal Westmoreland. But yeah, and then to be able to walk to the beach is key, you know. So, but people tend to come here and they say, I want to walk. I don't need a car. And then you really feel, I mean, unless you really like the heat, it gets pretty hot. So walking around is not always ideal. But
I remember renting a Jeep when we were in Barbados, thinking that was a fantastic idea, and throwing the top down, and it is for about an hour. And then you realize the intense heat that is in Barbados.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so and right now we're just a couple more questions before we finish off. So we talked a little bit about the market now, but how is this slowdown like globally impacting it right now? The dollar's all over the place with, you know, the pound and impacting maybe you know, some of your UK buyers and sellers, Canadians. Are we going into kind of a changing time in the Barbados market, or is things still moving along well?
Well, I would say that the pound took one of the greatest hits of not all time, but in a very, very long time. And while things have slowed, there's always an upside, right? So it may be tough for a purchaser, but the vendor's like, hold on, I'm making 20% more than I thought I was going to make. So there's more flexibility in the price for a vendor. So you tend to find in these times that vendors become a lot more realistic on their pricing and reduce so that they're in line with the market. And once they do that, then you see properties start to shift. For us here, I would say that before Barbados, when I started in real estate, you'd always say that it's going to take 2 seasons to sell your house. Nobody wants to hear that. Not even me. So I don't want to list a property for 2 years. But now, because people are getting a lot more smarter and saying, okay, if I'm a British owner or I'm Canadian and I see that when I bought it was X and now I can sell it Y, let me adjust my pricing. Properties, if you list it at the right price here, we're seeing sales within a month to 3 months. So the market exposure is a lot shorter. And And there's still people that are, if you can afford a vacation home, a lot of people maybe are not as affected as you would be if you were just in, living in your own country and
Sure.
buying a home.
Yeah.
So, but the interest rates it's difficult for people that want to buy here. Nobody wants to pay, as I said, 7%. So I could see that. I've seen a few deals fall through because of that, but it's the proof's in the pudding. If our pipe is growing constantly, and our transactions are up on every year, and that's general market sentiment, and maybe not our own company, it does feel like the market is improving, and we're not as impacted, but only time will tell.
Well, the reality is too, the rates that we were seeing globally right now, we watched them go up all last year. In Canada alone, we had eight straight rate increases.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable long term. So I think that, the overall consensus is that those are going to come down. And for people that can finance right now or purchase cash in Barbados, I think ultimately there's going to be an opportunity for them down the road.
Absolutely.
Right, to take advantage of. Okay, so I'm gonna let you go soon, but final advice that you might have for remote buyers looking at buying and selling, and any tips you can give them on obtaining or securing the greatest amount of success, I guess.
Sure. Okay. So most importantly, you need to know who you're working with. Find somebody, even if somebody tells you who they are, do enough research on who you're going to work with as an agent. Make sure that they are well informed and knowledgeable about the market, because I find that you tend to hear people come down here and they were referred someone, they eventually end up with you and they're like, I have no idea why I just wasted the last week of my life. So one, make sure you're well informed on that. Two, don't come here and think that this is a lowball market, because it does not. It just is not. If your agent can tell you that in the last 6 months we've seen discounts on average at 8%, and they tell you that, okay, if you want to buy this, here are the last 3 sales for a property like this, you need to understand that it's just because it may be like that where you are, it's not like that here. Trust the advice, and don't just trust advice blindly. Make sure that you can see the evidence before you trust the advice. Things move fast here. If you see something you like, don't sleep on it. Because I would say that a lot of people from the past, they'd be like, oh, Barbados properties stay on the market here for 2 years, something that I saw here still available 5 years later. Well, let me tell you, so many people get so upset because as soon as one offer goes on a property, somehow, and it might have been available for 2 years, there's 3 more that come in. And it's just Murphy's Law, and it's unfortunate. And then you have to start the process all over again. You lost the house you love, and then, it's not that great.
Sure.
Finding the right attorney, which we touched on earlier, is so key in a transaction. And making sure that you understand what all your costs are upfront for when you buy and also for when you own for each property. If you're going to rent the property, make sure your agent can tell you, what is your net income? What's your net return going to look like? How many weeks a year does it rent? How much use are you going to have? So people buy here, and you might think that it's like everywhere else in the world, but when people buy here, it's an emotional purchase. It's an investment, but it's an emotional investment as well too, because our return is, you might make between 3 and 5%, which is not high for a real estate return. However, you have a home in the place you love that you can come to. You can spend your time here. When you come down here, you have some money for your flights to go and spend at all the restaurants you want to. So it's making sure, yes, that it covers the cost, but also being realistic about it. If you're going to use it for the entire winter season, then that you can't expect to be earning as high in the rentals that you would. So
amazing points. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's another, that's a good point as well. It's just that market for you between January, I would say, or December and kind of April is your peak, right?
Yes. That's when people are here looking, and so right now, like if I was to tell anybody, my vendors won't like when I say this, but some vendors do still get concerned that the winter season's coming to a close and their home hasn't sold, and they might be advised by their agent, not us, that, things only happen during the season. So it's kind of a great time to buy, because people are very realistic on pricing. And it's coming down to the end of the season now. So, you know, people don't necessarily want to wait until there's a lot of people to look at their property again if they didn't get a lot of viewings in season. So it's a great time to buy right now.
Amazing. Well, look, thank you. Amazing points. I really appreciate it. We're going to provide all your contact information as well in here.
Thanks.
But I can let me also say that, you know, this is somewhere that you know, my wife and I have been looking, that we've been, you know, working with Rachel, and I can assure you that she is the best. She was referred. We talk about referrals. You know, Rachel was referred by friends that own on the island, and she can put you in touch with all of the best people to make sure that you're getting all your questions answered, and that you're, you know, in the best position possible to purchase. So thank you for joining us today. I'm super happy to start this journey on dealing with you know, Barbados properties first. So exciting. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Anytime.
Wish you all the best for the summer.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rachel.
All right.